Hello everyone, it's David here from Beyond the Kingdoms, and I'm here today to once again talk about Fastpass Plus strategies. I've already gone through all the parks at Disney World with my personal Fastpass recommendations, with the exception of Magic Kingdom. Unlike the other three parks, Magic Kingdom has no tiered system when it comes to Fastpass. Your initial three choices can be any attraction that offers the service. But since there are 25 experiences that offer Fastpass, it's really tough to pick those initial three options. So, today I'm going to focus on my suggestions for those groups visiting Magic Kingdom with babies and toddlers. Just to clarify, today's suggestions will focus on kids 5 and under, and more specifically, kids who are under 40 inches tall. Once kids hit that height, everything changes, because they can start riding some of the big thrill rides. Now, like I always say, these are just my recommendations, specifically from my experience on visiting the parks with my niece who is under 3 years old. Every kid is certainly different and has their own favorite character, so you may find some of my suggestions may not fit the bill. But I'll try my best to consider all the options. Like I said in my top 10 tips when visiting Magic Kingdom video, I think it's best to give yourself 2 days to experience this park. This is especially true if you're taking toddlers for their very first time. But if you've only got 1 day at Magic Kingdom, this is what to consider first: Peter Pan's Flight, Princess Fairy Tale Hall, and Enchanted Tales with Belle. I say these three specifically because they have no height restriction, they're very popular, and they tend to have the longest wait times when looking at attractions for this specific age group. And these two princess meets are unique in that Princess Fairy Tale Hall features 2 characters in 1 line, and Enchanted Tales with Belle is a long experience, and it's way more than just meeting a character. So, these are the first 3 attractions to consider booking a Fastpass for. Now, there are some additional choices that may come into play, depending on your child's height. The first certainly being Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, as well as Tomorrowland Speedway and the Barnstormer. So, if you've only got 1 day with the little ones, these are the 6 that you really should consider as your initial 3 choices. I would personally put Peter Pan and Seven Dwarfs at the top of the list. Then there is a group of attractions for this age group that I would classify as good 4th Fastpass choices, ones that you can make on the day once you get through your first 3. These attractions are Winnie the Pooh, Ariel's Meet and Greet, and Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin. I was really tempted to add Jungle Cruise in here, but I'll explain later why I left that out. So let's now look at how you might want to build an itinerary with these Fastpass Plus choices. First of all, if you're only doing 1 day, you absolutely should rope drop the park. Even if you're not morning people, this is the day to wake up and do it. Believe me, it makes all the difference in the world. A 1-day itinerary with these choices can start by rope dropping the park and heading straight to the hub, well before official opening time. Now, if Seven Dwarfs is completely out of the picture, I would start in Adventureland and work your way through the park clockwise. Rope dropping Adventureland is a great way to start because you can plow through this land easily in the first 2 hours of the day. You may have noticed I opted to skip Mickey Mouse in Town Square, and that's simply because if you've only got 1 day at Magic Kingdom, I say meet Mickey somewhere else. That way you can maximize your time in the park. If you happen to be doing the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train standby, I would beeline for that attraction first, then move on to Adventureland. Okay, so once you start in Adventureland, I would head straight to the Jungle Cruise first. I tend to skip using Fastpass here because it's not really my favorite attraction. But I know that the little kids really enjoy the animal animatronics. It's one of those rides that if you wait an hour for it later in the day, you may end up feeling like you wasted an hour of your time. So, I say do this first thing in the morning, bright and early, and explore the rest of Adventureland after that. Next, you would technically have Frontierland. Now for this age group, this land really won't be a priority because they'll be too small to ride things like Big Thunder and Splash Mountain. Of course, there are minor things like Tom Sawyer Island and Country Bears, but I assume that is not a huge priority for most people. So, this is a land you'll probably breeze on by. The same could even happen at Liberty Square. This could be an age group who might get a little bit scared in the Haunted Mansion, specifically the babies. So again, briskly moving through this area could end up happening, which gives you more time in Fantasyland. Okay, so now we're in Fantasyland, and this is the one section of the park that this group will probably find themselves in for the majority of the day. If you're trying to minimize walking, I suggest starting logically from the west side of Fantasyland and working your way east. This is where I would put that Fastpass for Peter Pan's flight. You can stand by things like Small World and then have lunch once you're in the middle of Fantasyland. A place like Be Our Guest may work really great. I'll leave it to you to decide on how many rides to do before lunchtime. After lunch, and possibly even a brief nap if your kid needs it, is when I would say to freshen up and do the princess meet and greets. You can get your kids in costumes if you're doing that and make them look really good for some pictures. Again, this is where I would use my Fastpass on Princess Fairy Tale Hall, followed by Enchanted Tales with Belle. And then, once you've done those initial 3 Fastpasses, I would straight away try and book your 4th Fastpass. And since you're working clockwise, you can do something like Pooh or the Ariel meet and greet next. After you've done your Fastpasses and all of the other Fantasyland attractions in the standby line, you'll probably discover that it's close to dinner time. You can have a quick dinner at Cosmic Rays or backtrack a little bit and enjoy Be Our Guest for dinner, if you can score the reservation. This leaves you with the last few hours in the night with Tomorrowland. If your 4th Fastpass was something like the Speedway or Buzz Lightyear, booking it later into the night should work well. And if you're planning to watch the fireworks, the Tomorrowland Bridge could be a good choice because it's a little less congested than the hub. I find that with really little ones, trying to stay away from the worst of the crowds is key to keeping the kids happy. Now, some people take a very different approach to a single day at the Magic Kingdom. Many head first straight to Fantasyland when the kids are fresh. This is certainly not a bad idea, but if you push areas like Adventureland later in the day, wait times can get long at attractions such as Pirates. And if you opt for Jungle Cruise after the sun goes down, little ones may not see many of the show scenes. This is why I say everything depends on your interests. Now, this is a jam-packed day. It's fun, but possibly exhausting. And this is why I think you'll find that with babies and toddlers, Magic Kingdom is best enjoyed over the course of 2 days. So let's look at Fastpass strategies for a 2-day itinerary. First of all, with 2 days, I would split the park up, and I would personally pair up Fantasyland and Adventureland together for one big day at the park, and the second, a lighter day, experiencing Tomorrowland and a little bit of Frontierland and Liberty Square. If you decide to split the park up like this, I would make the same 3 initial Fastpass choices that I did in the previous itinerary: Peter Pan's Flight, Princess Fairy Tale Hall, and Enchanted Tales with Belle. This is again with the idea of doing Adventureland first thing in the morning. Your day 2 is where you can toss all the secondary options in. Here I would book something like Buzz Lightyear, Pooh, and the Ariel meet and greet. Now, if the kids are a little bit taller and they're interested in things like the Speedway, the Barnstormer, or Seven Dwarfs, I would again consider putting those here in day 2. I'll leave it to you to decide what's most important. But it is worth noting that starting this December, the Tomorrowland Speedway will close down for an extended period. The exact length of time is unknown, but there's some construction work being carried out for the Tron coaster, so it could be a long time till the Speedway reopens. Okay, so now let's look at building an itinerary with this 2-day plan. Since day 1 has a little bit more packed in, I would suggest this being your rope drop day. It's probably best to always rope drop Magic Kingdom, but if you don't want to do that every day, at least try and do it here. Again, I would rope drop and head straight to Adventureland first, to knock out all those rides in the morning. Then we're looking at Fantasyland. And again, I would work my way from the west side and working clockwise, starting at Peter Pan's Flight. And again, you can work your way through It's a Small World, PhilharMagic, and so on, and decide when you want to have lunch. I still always think that doing those meet and greets after a nap is probably a good idea, or first thing in the morning. On this day, I would simply do as much of Fantasyland as you can until the kids poop out. This is where I say focus on the attractions more than the parade and the fireworks. And it could mean that you have a semi-early end time, which is great because you can go back to the hotel and have an early night in. And then your second day at Magic Kingdom can be a little less intense. Rope drop doesn't have to be as crucial because this is your light day. But if you do get into the park at a reasonable hour, this is the day I would suggest starting with the Mickey meet and greet in Town Square before heading in to Tomorrowland. If you do it early, you don't have to worry about a Fastpass and you can do standby. Then, once you're in Tomorrowland, you can really experience these attractions in whatever order you like. You can do that Fastpass for Buzz Lightyear and then enjoy things like the Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor and the People Mover, all at your own pace. And then again, you can have either a quick lunch in Cosmic Rays or do a slight detour to have lunch at Be Our Guest. And if you choose to have an earlier lunchtime, you can even take a detour to the hub to watch the parade. But I will admit that I'm always a little bit funny about the parade with this age group. I find that the 2-year-olds sometimes are not as willing to sit and wait for a parade in comparison to a 7-year-old. It's always a hit and miss with the babies and toddlers depending on the kid's mood and their age, so it's up to you if this is a priority or not. Then after the parade, I would work my way into Storybook Circus to enjoy Dumbo and the Barnstormer. If for any reason you didn't get to do all of Fantasyland on your first day, you can go back in there and do things like Pooh and Under the Sea. This is why working from Peter Pan first and then clockwise on the previous day comes in handy. By this point, it may be late afternoon and you're at the back of the park. And this is where I would suggest taking a train ride from the Fantasyland station back to Main Street, where you can exit the park and go back to the hotel for an early dinner. You can enjoy a nice meal away from the crowds and freshen up before an evening back at Magic Kingdom. An evening at Magic Kingdom on this second day makes scoring a good viewing spot for the fireworks much easier. This is again why I like to split the lands in the specific combinations that I mentioned. Now, you may have noticed that I've opted to skip over some attractions that are quite popular that do offer Fastpass Plus, specifically Dumbo and Under the Sea. I leave these two out because Dumbo has a great standby line in that there's a giant play area. This is one of those cases where I think waiting in line for an attraction is actually a welcome thing because the adults can sit and relax in the air conditioning and the kids can run around and blow off some steam. Under the Sea is also another really tricky attraction in Fantasyland. On a really busy day, it can get quite long. However, I find this attraction more than the rest in Fantasyland to fluctuate the most. But again, like I said at the top of the show, the 3 most popular attractions in Fantasyland are Peter Pan's Flight, Princess Fairy Tale Hall, and Enchanted Tales with Belle. If your kids are tall enough, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is the most popular ride in the entire park. So those are the 4 that you want to consider first, depending on your child's interests. So there you have it, my friends, my Fastpass Plus recommendations for a fun-filled day at the Magic Kingdom, specifically with babies and toddlers. I hope that you find this helpful and that it provides a starting point when planning your next trip to this park. But that will certainly have to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, if you can dream it, you can do it.